Purdue is by far the favorites to win the national championship this year. They have all the talent. Can Matt Painter get them there? We'll figure out the answers to those questions and more on a special edition of Locked On Boilermakers.
You are Locked On Boilermakers, your daily podcast on the Purdue Boilermakers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Boilermakers. Thank you for making Locked On Boilermakers your first listen today and your first listen every day. We're on the Locked On Network where it's your team every day, so thank you for joining us. My name is Nick Arvin. I'm your host. I write about Purdue for 24/7 Sports, now the host of Locked On Boilermakers, and I have a lot of exciting things to talk about today. Obviously, as we talked about, Purdue is the national title favorites, and that's very exciting for a lot of people out there. After year of failed expectations, of lower expectations than would have been expected going into the year, there's a lot of faith going around this Purdue basketball team, and a lot of it stems from this core, this returning core. Purdue returns 90% of its production from last year, and that's something that has really elevated them into being the national title favorites going into the end of summer camp, summer practices, and we're going to jump right into that today, and we're going to talk about that. So starting off first, obviously, Braden Smith returns from last year's team, from the team before that. Same with Fletcher, Loyer, and those are two guys. You put those guys in your backcourt. We'll talk a little bit about the front court later in this episode, but for now, those two guys in the backcourt, they give you a very interesting look. Fletcher, Loyer, obviously very dynamic from three, can really stretch out your team. Very good spacing wise, can bang down threes, bang down shots from the mid range, and gives you looks at that two spot. But let's talk about Braden Smith for a second. Braden Smith, ever since he's been at Purdue, has been a consistent contributor for this team. He's constantly been on the floor game in, game out through the Zach Edey teams through last year, where there was a bit of a lack of depth in that front court. He was still able to make plays happen, still able to make plays happen in the pick and roll, get the ball to the big, and score. And this year, with that rebuilt front court that we've seen that Matt Painter's been able to build so far, whether that's through the transfer portal or getting some guys back, Braden Smith's production is going to increase exponentially this year going into his senior year for Purdue. And he's part of the reason why the Boilers are the so-called title favorites. I mean, when you return production like that, we saw Purdue was good last year. They can't get it done in the Sweet 16 against what was a very good Houston team. We see all those one seeds go to the Final Four for the first time in forever. So it wasn't Purdue's year last year. Before the season, it looked like it may have been a little bit of a rebuild year, so to speak, with Zach Edey going to go play in Memphis. You have TKR, who we knew Trey Kaufman-Renn was going to be excellent for Purdue last year, but a traditional power forward, you have to put him at the center position, and obviously was still good, excelled really well in that Matt Painter offense, was able to get to the basket a lot, especially with Braden Smith feeding him the ball, especially with Fletcher, Loyer being able to space the floor the way that he does. But this year, you have way more guys. You're able to adjust Trey to the 4 spot. You're able to put him at the power forward position, and you have options at the 5 spot. You have options for Braden Smith, for Fletcher, Loyer, so that they're able to produce in the way that you want. They don't have to be ball dominant like they have been in the past. They can feed it down into the post, and they can be successful. And that's something that we've seen so far in summer practices, and a reason why Purdue looks to be so dominant. And there are a few reasons why Purdue is going to be so dominant. Obviously, we talk about Matt Painter rebuilding this team. We got guys like Omer, Israeli guard. There's been some talk about potentially moving him over to the small forward position, or even running 3 guards. We talk about with Braden Smith, Fletcher, Loyer. He's going to have to plug in somewhere. And we'll talk about Omer a little bit later in the show when we talk about some of those international guys that look to make Purdue really good this year, like guys like Oscar Cluff, the center transfer, who's going to come in and look to make himself known in that front court at the starting center position. We talk about Daniel Jacobson, who is returning last year, who broke his leg in the second game of the year. And he didn't see many minutes. 7'4". He's definitely going to make his presence known as a rim protector in the paint. We'll see what he does from a scoring perspective, but Matt Painter has really built a team this year, and he has in past years. They haven't been able to get it done. Obviously, we've seen tons of success within Big Ten play, but once you get to the tournament, it's been a little bit underwhelming. And obviously, we see the one seed upset that many Purdue fans don't want to think about with that 16 seed going over. And ever since then, for Purdue basketball, we talk about what was a rebuild year of sorts, but that's been a looming cloud over Purdue's head since that upset, and it's been something that has been almost a little bit hard to rebuild from. I mean, when you lose to Fairleigh Dixon, it's a bad look, and other teams can use that against you. And once again, we talk about it. We talk about it with Barry Odom and Ross A. We talk about last year going 1-11. Purdue has had to prove that they're able to bounce back from that, and they finally have the team this year to be able to do that. That was a rough memory, but the championships in Indianapolis this year, we saw Virginia lose to a 16 seed in 2019, and they bounced back for a championship. So why can't Purdue? They're the national title favorites for a reason. They have the roster. It's time that we see Purdue finally make that run for the national championship, and it's going to be this year. So we talk about it. Braden Smith at the 1. You run Fletcher, Loyer at the 2. But what about that 3 spot? The small forward position has been something that historically for Matt Painter has been a question mark. There haven't been a ton of great small forwards that have been consistent and can plug into that position. So this year, more of the same, a very guard-heavy roster for Matt Painter and the Boilermakers this year. Omer Meyer, he comes in a 6'3", 6'4" guard out of Israel, but you also have Jakari Harris, you've got CJ Cox, and you've got Antoine West Jr. So Antoine West Jr., someone that Matt Painter has talked a lot about so far throughout summer practices. The freshman has really been turning some eyes around Mackey Arena around these practices, and he's gotten some star-studded comparisons. A guy who's going to be able to shoot the ball, be able to play make, but that just goes to show how excellent this Purdue guard room is. And with that being said, we need one of those guards to step up and play at the small forward position, whether that's what Matt Painter elects to do, whether he elects to run a 3-guard lineup. We may see that. We may see a rotation like that when Painter wants to get some playmaking, some scoring in there. But someone that's been really under the radar for Purdue is Jack Benter. Benter, solid 3 spot. I mean, a defensive guy who can really lock down. We've seen him so far in summer practices. He's been guarding Trey Kaufman-Renn. And that just goes to show, like, for Purdue, competition builds greatness. You have a guy like Jack Benter who's guarding Trey Kaufman-Renn, one of the best scorers in the nation. And who else are you going to see in Big Ten play? Who are you going to see for Jack Benter that you can guard that is better than Trey Kaufman-Renn getting inside, shooting the ball from the mid-range, and making plays happen? It's just not going to happen. It's really an iron sharpens iron type situation going on in West Lafayette for a guy like Jack Benter, and he's been really under the radar so far going into summer practice. So, with that being said, Purdue definitely has the roster capable of going to the national title. Matt Painter has showed that he's a great regular season coach, but can he make the right adjustments? Can he put the right lineups in the floor? And can he do the right things to forward his team to a national championship? It's been a long time coming for Purdue fans. There comes a point where you have the excellence, you have the talent running throughout that locker room, running throughout that team, year after year after year. There needs to be results. And yeah, there was a Final Four a few years back, and that's nice. I mean, you can hang the banner for that, but it's not a national championship. This is the year. There are serious expectations riding on this year. There should not be any excuses. There should be production on the floor, and there should be success. They opened it up with an exhibition against Kentucky, which is a good thing. once again, we talk about iron sharpens iron. Competition breeds greatness. And we're going to see that. Purdue facing Kentucky, Mark Pope's lineup in an exhibition is a great thing to see where Purdue's at compared to another high-quality program and to see where they're going to fare. And then you got regular season matchup against Evansville. You're right up in it. November, that's the time. And this team needs to be ready. They have the talent, but they need to be ready to play competitive teams, to play competitive lineups, and to start getting wins. So we talk a little bit about the heavy guard play, and obviously an excellent guard room. But this front court has been very revitalized. Last year we saw a front court, like we said, TKR, Trey Kaufman-Renn has to go play at the center position, which he's fine with. He's very capable of scoring at that position, but he's more comfortable at the power forward. And Purdue has the ability to stretch him out to the power forward position because they have two really solid center options this year. And we'll talk about those two guys here on our next segment, right after a quick word from our sponsor. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spendings in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Before using Monarch Money, I didn't understand how much I was spending in subscriptions every month. Once I got on Monarch Money, I did, and I was able to save more money with them. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for half off your first year. So in the last segment, we talk about that guard play that's been so excellent so far in summer practice. We've seen a lot of plays being made by Braden Smith, by Fletcher Loyer, by Omer. We've seen all that, but something that we've also seen is this rejuvenated front court so far going into summer. And a lot of that does stem down from the transfer of Oscar Cluff, a guy that comes in from South Dakota State, a guy that, from what we've seen, has been a dominant force, 6'11". You stick him in the paint and nobody's moving to him. He can set screens. Something that the guards will definitely benefit from is Cluff's ability to screen and make plays on handoffs and in that role game. But a piece that a lot of people haven't been talking about this summer is that of Daniel Jacobson. We've seen him be able to play. He played in the FIBA U19 World Cup for the United States, and maybe he didn't get a lot of action on the offensive side of the ball, but at Purdue, I think he'll have a chance to really show where he's progressed from the scoring side of things. Obviously, Jacobson at 7'4" is going to be a dominant force in that paint, a dominant rim protector. Same with Cluff. Cluff doesn't get enough recognition for his ability to rim protect, something that he did decent at South Dakota State. Obviously not Big Ten opponent, not against a Big Ten big, but when you factor in the fact that Trey Kaufman-Renn is going to be at that 4 spot, that gives you so much flexibility moving forward at the 5. And likewise, it gives so much more flexibility for Trey Kaufman-Renn at the 4. When you pair up one of these guys, whether that's a Daniel Jacobson or whether that's an Oscar Cluff, you pair them up with Trey Kaufman-Renn, that gives you one of, if not the best, front courts in the nation. And that speaks a lot to TKR. That speaks to his scoring ability. That speaks to his ability to guard defenders as a point of attack defender. That speaks a lot about his ability to hold it down in the paint. But when you bring in a guy like Oscar Cluff, you bring in a guy like Daniel Jacobson. Obviously, Daniel Jacobson was at Purdue last year, but suffers an injury earlier in the year. So his availability really changes the outlook for Purdue this year. It really does change the trajectory. When you have a front court that's able to produce at the level that this front court has been able to produce in summer practices, it changes your outlook for the team because you're not just a team of guards. You're not just Braden Smith, Fletcher Loyer trying to make stuff happen. We saw that at times last year. We saw TKR produce at the center position, but we saw a primarily guard-filled lineup that tried to make plays, and we won't have to have as much reliance on those guards this year. When you fit in Oscar Cluff, when you fit in Daniel Jacobson, when you fit in a guy like Jack Benter, when you fit in Liam Murphy, the transfer, there's a lot of opportunity for Purdue this year, and it makes sense that they are the national title favorites. I mean, quite frankly, we see the odds, we see what FanDuel projects who will be the national championship, and that's been Purdue. It's been Purdue since the portal. It's been Purdue since these acquisitions have been made to make this team so much better. It's been Purdue since Omer Meyer was playing in the U19 World Cup, lighting teams up. It's been Purdue. This is the national championship favorite. This is the team that's expected to win the national championship. This is the team that should win the national championship. They have the pieces. Last year, they didn't have the pieces. They had a good team, but they didn't have a well-rounded team well enough to make that run to beat a Houston in the Sweet 16, and we saw that. But they have the pieces this year. They shouldn't be where they were last year in that Sweet 16. They should be in Houston's spot. They should be the 1 seed. They should run the Big Ten. They should win the Big Ten tournament. These type of things have been taken for granted, and obviously, Purdue in recent years has had success in the regular season. We've seen that, but we haven't seen that postseason success that needs to translate in order for Purdue to start being respected by its peers and by other opponents. It's plain to see that. Obviously, Purdue's going to be better than a Penn State next year and Indiana next year. They're going to be better than all those teams in the Big Ten. This is going to be a powerhouse team that really run things. There's a lot of talk about blue bloods in college basketball, whether that's a Kentucky, a Kansas, whatever. Obviously, Purdue doesn't necessarily fit into a stereotypical blue blood role, but they've ran the Big Ten for recent years. They've ran the Big Ten in recent history. Under Matt Painter, he's been the best coach in the country for a lot of these years. He's a top 5 coach in the country right now. We haven't seen that postseason success. But we've seen him build a team this year that really has the opportunity to lead him to that postseason success. In college basketball, a great coach counts. Obviously, you have your Coach K's, your Roy Williams. Those guys win championships because they're championship-winning coaches. We haven't seen Matt Painter win a championship yet. We don't know if he's a championship-winning coach. No coach is a championship-winning coach until they get it done. But when you're able to build a team and keep the production that Matt Painter has been able to keep and build the front court up like he's been able to build it up so far this offseason, that's a championship-worthy environment. That's a championship-worthy team, and that's a championship pedigree that Matt Painter is trying to obtain. Going into this offseason, it would have been easy for Painter to say, hey, let's just keep the guys that we have. Let's build up some of these younger guys on the roster that didn't get as much playing time last year, and that would have been perfectly respectable. Purdue would have been a solid team this year. They would have made it probably to the Sweet 16 just like they did last year, but Matt Painter didn't settle for that. He brought in the acquisitions, whether that's from the transfer portal, whether that's those international guys that we'll talk about here in our next segment. But Matt Painter didn't settle. He didn't choose the team that he had last year. He keeps a lot of production, but he adds to that. Say what you want about Matt Painter. Say he's not a championship contending coach. Say that he can't build a team on a year-to-year basis. Say that he can't retain talent, but he showed this offseason that he's capable to do that. He's shown that this team is going to be a team that's going to contend for a national championship, and he showed that he's a coach that's able to recruit and gain transfers and not just be an X's and O's coach. And that's something that we've wanted to see from Matt Painter from a long time, and he's finally built a roster that shows that he's capable of doing so. We talk about this front court. We talk about these acquisitions and Oscar Cluff and Daniel Jacobson, who was here last year. But the fact that Trey Kaufman-Renn was able to average 20 points last year from a position that he's not standard at. He's not a traditional center. He's a power forward. That's unbelievable. And you're going to give him so much leverage this year, building those strong guys around him, building that strong front court to really show his full potential as a scorer. there's going to be more mouths to feed for Purdue's offense this year. So I doubt we'll see TKR averaging 25 points a game, but he's going to be able to make the efficient play like we know that he's capable of, to make the high IQ play, to make the winning play. And that's going to be pivotal for Purdue's success this year. TKR, Trey Kaufman-Renn, is the most important player for Purdue this year. He's in that front court. He's going to excel in a different role for Purdue. He's excellent. We've seen him be able to make the plays so far in summer camp. We've seen him be able to be a 3-level scorer. We've seen him play make. We've seen him rebound. We've seen him do everything necessary for him to take the next leap as a competitor, to take the next leap as a player. And I feel like it needs to be talked about more. We're talking about serious national player of the year here. Trey Kaufman-Renn isn't just a typical big. This is something that we haven't seen before from an aspect of being able to score the way he does. We saw Zach Edey, an elite big at Purdue, but Edey didn't have a jump shot the way TKR does. Edey was dominant in the paint, but TKR is shifty. He's able to get to his shot. He's able to rise up above defense, and he's able to hit that shot on a consistent basis. He's going to give Purdue a look that they didn't have last year with him at the center position, and that goes back to Matt Painter and his ability to build a team around TKR and his ability to create a team in an environment where TKR is at his best. We've seen him at his best in summer camp. We've seen him at his best throughout these practices. We've seen him at his best throughout this offseason. He seems like a hard worker. He's always in the weight room, always trying to get better as a player. TKR is going to be pivotal to Purdue this year, pivotal to their success. If they won a national championship, it's going to run through TKR. He's the guy for Purdue. Braden Smith and Fletcher Loyer, Purdue without a fault, but TKR is one of the best players in the nation, if not the best player in the nation. And he's going to be so much better with these dominant centers behind him. Oscar Cluff, a foreign prospect. There's been a lot of talk about international prospects throughout college basketball. It's been the new trend, and Purdue's hopping right on that trend. We'll talk about those international prospects on the last segment today of Locked On Boilermakers. But first, a word from our sponsors. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape ginger and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off of it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. Say your buddy's hitting mulligans and trying to cheat without you knowing. How are you going to do that? How are you going to put up with that without a cool shot of 5-Hour Energy? If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with any other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. For our last segment on today's show, we're going to be talking about that international steam engine, some of those guys that are going to look to make Purdue that national contender this year. Two guys, two international prospects in Omer Meyer and Oscar Cluff. Oscar Cluff, the big physical 6'11 center, and then Omer Meyer, the guard from Israel, 18-year-old, lottery prospect this year. A lot of excitement around Purdue, around Meyer, and around Cluff for that matter. So let's talk a little bit about why these international guys have been so notable lately in college sports, because it hasn't always been that way. Obviously, we've seen some issues in the past, guys getting eligibility that come from overseas that are international prospects. There have been some eligibility issues, and that may have been feared for a little bit with Omer Meyer whenever he comes over to Purdue. We see him play in the U19 World Cup over there for Israel. But overall, he makes it to West Lafayette. He gets invited to Chris Paul's elite guard camp, and he elects to stay in West Lafayette, to stay with his team, to learn the system, to learn Matt Painter's system. There hasn't been a whole lot of opportunity for for Meyer to really plug into Painter's system because he's been playing overseas in high stakes games. And he's been playing professional basketball. And that's something that a lot of people don't really talk about. Obviously, professional in the terms of what most people deem isn't necessarily um, the reality of the situation. But when you're playing in EuroLeague teams, when you're playing European basketball against guys that are getting played against grown men like that, we saw a guy, Ben Seraph, NBA draft prospect, first round pick by the Nets this year. He was teammates with Meyer in Israel, and they really balled out together. We saw Seraph choose the draft route. Meyer elects to come to Purdue to go play for Matt Painter. But that's something that really gives these international guys a leg up over a traditional high school prospect. You're playing against grown men. We've seen some of these high school prospects not playing the best competition. They get a little bit high up on their horse when they come to college, and then they don't perform at the level that they did in high school. But overall, I mean, there have been some exceptions. Not every guy that has come from overseas has been good, but for the most part, a lot of these international guys tend to ball out in college, tend to ball out in the NBA, in the G League, and really find success in America. And that really has to deal with the fact that they're playing high-level competition from the age of being a teenager, from before you can drive a car. You're playing grown men in professional basketball, and that leads to success over time for you. That leads to success for a guy like Meyer. That leads to success for a guy like Cluff. Obviously, we see Cluff and Meyer may have different paths because with all likelihood, Meyer's a one and done. This year at Purdue, the talent, the NBA scouts have noticed. We see that in the FIBA World Cup. We see him go for 30 points. We see him average out 20 points a game on decent efficiency and good playmaking ability. He has all the attributes to be an elite NBA level scorer. And the fact that you add an Omer Meyer to a Braden Smith, Fletcher Loyer guard core. I mean, maybe you have to put him at small forward. Maybe you don't. We'll have to see what Matt Painter elects to do. Obviously, maybe a liability on defense against some of these bigger wings in the Big Ten throughout college basketball. But when you factor in the scoring and playmaking ability that Omer Meyer gives you, and you add that to the guard core, you add that to the front court that Purdue's built, Purdue might actually be unbeatable this year. We talk about these national championship expectations. We talk about Purdue beating the title favorites. But I don't know if we're really understanding how good Purdue's going to be and how good these international guys are that have made it over to West Lafayette. We talk about Cluff. We talked about him in our last segment. We talked about his ability to set screens and make plays off the handoff, make plays in the pick and roll. That's something that he's excelled at. Obviously not at the Big Ten level, but you bring him over to the Big Ten, and you're not going to see a drop-off. His game translates. That's a guy that you're not going to be able to move in the paint. We talk about these welcome to college experience for some of these high school kids posting up in the paint and getting moved around. You're not moving around Oscar Cluff. Oscar Cluff is a big son of a gun. He's a big boy, and you pair that with 7'4" Daniel Jacobson in that front court. You add Omer Meyer's scoring ability. Who's going to stop that? Who's going to stop that? You can try to take advantage of maybe not as deep of a wing position at the three, but Painter's going to make adjustments. He's going to send Benter, who's been having to guard TKR all summer on you, and he's going to lock you down. You bring these international prospects in. You bring a level of professionalism. You bring a level of readiness that these guys have been with their whole life, and it shows throughout the rest of the team. Matt Painter can talk all he wants about how these positions in the lineup are earned and not given, but Braden Smith and Fletcher Loyer have had their starting spots cemented for years now, and Meyer knows that. But do you think just because he's 18 and because he's got two guards that have a lot of experience over him are definitely going to start in that lineup, you think that deters him from wanting to play? You think Omer Meyer is the type of guy to just lay down and say, hey, I'm going to not play as many minutes? And sure, maybe maybe he is that type of guy. Maybe he wants to do what's best for the team, but he's an elite guard. He's going to get minutes. He's going to get on the floor. You have 6 or 7 serviceable guards, but Painter's going to make that work. You throw in Omer, a guy as ready as Omer, and he's going to make plays. He's going to make most of his minutes. Maybe they're limited minutes. Maybe they're not. He's an NBA lottery guard, and he's going to excel this year for Purdue. These international prospects have been so surprising, so impressive so far this summer in summer practices for Purdue. Omer probably impressing more than anybody else on the team this summer with the World Cup through summer practice. But Oscar Cluff has jumped right in there and made his role known that he wants to be that starting center. And it speaks to how ready these international guys are, how well prepared they are, and how perfect they are going to be for this Purdue team that's looking to make a deep run this year. We see it. They're ready. And how great of a position is it to be in for Matt Painter, where you have Braden Smith and Fletcher Loyer at the 1 and 2, and then you can bring in an NBA lottery guard behind them. That's the perfect situation to be in for Matt Painter, and it reflects in the odds and the expectations and why people think that Purdue is going to be a national championship team this year. Whether they're going to win the national championship, I don't know. We're in August. It's too early to tell. But they have the pieces. They had the pieces a few years ago with Edey, and they couldn't capitalize. They have the pieces now, and they need to capitalize. For too many years, just so close has been enough for Purdue. And it's unacceptable. Matt Painter needs to prove that he's a championship winning coach. He can prove that he's a national winning coach, but it needs to start now. He has the team, he has the players, he has the roster, and he has the system. It's time for people to buy into this team, and it's time for Matt Painter to prove that he can win with a national championship worthy roster. That's all we got for you today on today's episode of Locked On Boilermakers. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on your rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you for making me your first listen today, guys. And with that being said, boiler up, hammer down.